I want to share with you today some of the thinking that went into the complete conversion of our refuse collection fleet to an alternative fuel. Smithtown is the first municipality on the east coast of the United States to mandate the use of compressed natural gas for 100% of its residential refuse collection. This is actually one of the trucks that was operating in our residential neighborhoods in 2006. Our contract fleet averaged 15 years old, with 25% of them 25 years old. The town historically was divided into 12 different contract areas, with the work for collection being awarded on a competitive bid basis to the firm which offered the lowest price for a 5-year term. When that contract had been up for bidding, it was July of 2001, pre-9/11, and the local price of diesel fuel on Long Island was $1.05 per gallon. In the fall of 2005, it passed $3. Our hauling contracts had no fuel escalator clauses, and some of the carters threatened to walk off the job and leave the garbage in the streets. It's a very tense time for us. Legally, we did not have the latitude to provide them with extra funding because of the run-up in the price of diesel fuel. So we simply held them to the contract and kept our fingers crossed every morning and hoped that we'd wake up and the garbage was actually being collected rather than left in the streets. One of the contract carters told us that on a new contract, he was going to base his bid on his estimate that the 2007 price of diesel fuel that he would have to absorb would be $4 or $4.50 per gallon, and that he would further estimate his successive years of the contract with a 50-cent per gallon increase in the price of diesel fuel. You see, we were looking for a viable alternative. We were not at all interested as a conservative municipality with experimenting with tax dollars. That's not what we were about. We needed something proven, something that was going to do the job. In our research, we found Inform's Green and Garbage Trucks report. Reviewing that report, which reported on the experience of organizations operating CNG-fueled refuse trucks, and talking to some of the actual operators of those trucks identified in that report, gave us confidence in the technology. We learned that the trucks and fueling equipment were not experimental. They were proven at that point, with over 1,000 vehicles already on the road for a number of years. Well, further research showed that natural gas was cleaner burning than petroleum diesel, with significant reductions in the emission of nitrogen oxides and particulates possible. In addition, we learned that the majority of natural gas available to us was from North American sources, as opposed to petroleum being supplied primarily by overseas sources. So we were intrigued. We're very interested in the environmental benefits, the energy security benefits, and the proven technology aspects of using natural gas as a motor vehicle fuel. But honestly, those things alone weren't the point. We were looking at alternative fuels to avoid the high cost of petroleum diesel fuel and to avoid what we perceived to be a major financial risk associated with future diesel prices. We went out for bids for a new refuse collection contract, specifying that only bidders utilizing dedicated CNG-fueled trucks would be considered. At the time on Long Island, there were no prospective carters to bid on that contract who were operating CNG trucks. The industry had no experience with the technology. We were very concerned that we'd either get no bids at all, or the bids that we received would have very high inflated numbers because contractors would build in an economic comfort factor to their bid. Well, it didn't happen. We ultimately received more bids on this contract than we've ever received before. Bidders indicated that they were more interested in this contract than past contracts because of those fixed CNG fuel prices. We did exit interviews with all the bidders. They all expressed, every one of them, an opinion that the future diesel prices were unpredictable and represented a major risk to their business that this CNG-based contract could avoid. The incremental cost for these trucks was $68,700 per vehicle. The cost with carrying charges, therefore, comes out to be $7.38 per home per year. That cost is, however, offset by a savings in the cost of fuel. The current local price of diesel fuel is $1.26 a gallon more than what we pay Clean Energy for a diesel gallon equivalent of natural gas. This equates to a worst-case scenario where the fuel savings per home per year is $5.62. That means that our residents, under the worst-case scenario, are paying only $1.76 per home per year, or about a half a penny a day, to have trucks that are not only cleaner and quieter than diesel trucks, but use a North American fuel that's available at long-term fixed prices. In fact, if we do the math based upon the 2007 price for diesel fuel that our bidders told us they would have based their bids on, and we consequently would have been paying, our fuel savings already exceed our incremental costs. Under that scenario, we're already saving $3.34 per home per year. And the beauty of this scenario is that I can tell you what I will pay for fuel in the year 2013. And in this age of diesel fuel prices, that's really something to value. We estimate that over the 7-year life of our new contract, that we'll reduce nitrogen oxide emissions in our town, in our residential neighborhoods, by 265 tons, and particulate emissions, PM10s, by 15 tons. And we'll do that while displacing 1.5 million gallons of foreign-sourced petroleum, and we'll do all of that while we're saving money. The trucks have been on the road now for over a year. And I have to tell you that in talking with different people around the room, people ask about their reliability. Well, I can tell you this, those trucks have been on the road for over a year, 2 different manufacturers. I have never, not once, needed to bring in a diesel truck to back up my CNG fleet. Not one truck, not one day, not one stop. From day one, my fleet has rolled and it has done the job every day, day in, day out. About 3 weeks after we launched our fleet, I found myself on the phone with an elderly resident who explained to me that he understood all about the environmental benefits, he understood the energy security issues because of all the press that the project had received, but he still didn't like the trucks. He explained to me that he was in the habit of not putting his garbage out the night before collection. He was afraid that vandals would overturn his cans or animals would get into it and make a mess that he'd have to clean up. So for years, he just simply listened for the trucks to come down the road, and he'd run out and meet the truck. Men would empty the can, and he'd run the cans back into his garage where they were safe. 3 weeks into the project, he had missed his collection 3 times because the trucks were too quiet. He wanted us to instruct the drivers to blow the air horns as they came down the block. Well, we figured 1 out of 116,000 disgruntled is a pretty good track record, so we just leave them disgruntled and left it at that. But this project really does demonstrate that compressed natural gas as a motor vehicle fuel in this application, heavy-duty trucks, trash trucks, it's viable, it's doable, it's available now. It's not an experiment. You're not waiting for another scientific breakthrough or two. You're not waiting for some magical funding opportunity to come down the road. These trucks are available, and you put them on the road, and they do work.